Welcome to the Life of Phys, the podcast that celebrates the creativity and supportive community within the world of art. I'm your host, Tyson Martin, and on this podcast, we will be hearing the artist's stories, what drives their creativity, the benefit it has on their mental health, and why they are supporting the community over competition movement. On this episode of the podcast, our guest is Roxanna Ortiz. Roxanna is a talented photographer and videographer based in Seattle, Washington, and we sit down and chat about her current and future projects, the gear she uses, her business, Raw Plus Seattle, her thoughts on the state of the photography videography community, the pitfalls of social media, and the fact she is the only Emmy winner I know. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get to the show.
My name is Dana. I am a digital artist that mainly specializes in videography and photography. I also do music. I'm a songwriter. I play guitar. Overall, I just like to call myself a jack of all trades just because I enjoy so many mediums of art. I'm from originally the Bay Area, more specifically Oakland, but I live in Seattle currently. So I've been here for almost 3 years. It's funny though. I was born in Oakland. And I say I'm from Oakland just because I went to school in Oakland for a portion of my life, and I was always in Oakland for the times I was not in school. If I was not in school, I was in Oakland or San Francisco, but mostly Oakland. My mom's a musician. She's a singer. So when I was little, she would take me to Oakland because she was part of a band. And so I grew up around having to go to rehearsals after school for her band. And I would just sit there. But like all these places were in Oakland. So that's where I spent majority of my time if I wasn't in school. But I actually went to school in San Leandro, which is like a super big white suburb, which is why kind of ties into this project that I'm doing. It talks about being in two worlds and living two separate lives, almost having to present two separate like faces to the world, especially being someone of color. I'm actually Puerto Rican and Mexican.
Let's talk about that project. I'm a big fan of anything that can bring empowerment to any culture. I'm an Indigenous man who loves my culture. And as we all know, there's tons of struggles with Indigenous community and identity. So why don't you explain what you're doing, when it's going to be out, how people are going to be able to find it, what we can do to help support it?
Absolutely. Well, so I'm actually doing a documentary called Amor y Fuerza. It's about a couple things. One, mainly it highlights Latinas who currently live and have jobs here in Washington. It highlights them and what they do, who they are, their stories, but it also highlights, a big issue that a lot of immigrants that come to the United States deal with, especially like second and third generations deal with, which is identity issues. Not only immigrants, but people who are biracial or triracial, they're a mix, right? A lot of people like myself, I'm Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican, but I also went to school in a very, very white neighborhood. So there's this conversation of like, who am I? Like, how do I define my culture? And having to also like put on masks around certain groups, like code switch. That's something I personally struggled with and I still struggle with. But those feelings came up because I'm actually a mom. I don't really talk about it too much on my social media just because I try to keep that part of my life a little private. I believe like it's fun being on social media and all, but I really do like to keep my daughter and her privacy like pretty much on lockdown because anyway, the world's creepy. I was struggling like having like what do I want to teach her about my culture? Like I struggled with Spanish just because I went to school having to learn English and my parents never enforced it. But I felt a little sad. I'm like, what am I going to teach my daughter? What do I want her to know about my culture, about my family, about my family's history? And like thinking about that made me realize like, well, how can I teach her something if I don't know like how I feel about my own culture?
I get that because
You
as you know, I'm going through something super similar, just figuring out where my birth family's from, which is crazy because it's only a couple hours away from where I am currently. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. You're going to open a light to a lot of people. It's going to refresh people because they know they're not alone, right? This is going to give something, because you're doing it in video form, this is going to give people the opportunity to sit back, watch it at their pace, and really take in what you're explaining and what people are talking about in your film. I think what you're doing doing by keeping your daughter kind of out of social media, keeping her privacy. Most people don't know that I'm married. I have 6 children. Very rarely post about my children or my wife because I want my family life to be separate from my business. The Life of Phys is my business. My social media is all geared towards building a business. It's helping to build a community, build a brand, and find a way to be sustainable while helping this community grow.
Absolutely.
That to me, what you're doing, I think I had ideas with Indigenous communities, but I'm still trying to break in. I'm going to film when I go home this summer to Merritt. My band is the Lord Nicola. We're interior Salish.
I remember on Mike's podcast, you were saying that.
I mean, what you're doing is you're going to give people a voice. And by giving people a voice, that's just the start to building a beautiful future. We all need a voice. We all need someone to be willing to take that risk. And you're willing to take that risk. And I applaud you for what you're doing.
In a way, I decided to do this project for myself. No, it really was just like in the process of getting my last interview. And for me, I'm like discovering things along the way about how all these other women have dealt with similar issues or what advice they have to give about like being discriminated against or having to what it means to be Latina in America, which is one of my questions I asked them. I'm really excited to do this just because sometimes there's this feeling of like, I don't know where I belong, but everyone goes through that. But I think it's more intense for people of color and then people of color who have to deal with keeping alive their culture and living in modern day America because of what American history is, and I would say Western history has done to people of color and their cultures in other nations. If people know history, half of the United States used to be Mexico. And you know, even when the Spanish came over and colonized it, how does your culture stay alive when it's been erased?
100%.
I think it's like, I could cry about it, but
yeah,
it's a sad thing of like humanity.
You were in the military. You did photography and videography in the military. So run me through what that experience was like.
Yes. So after high school, funny story, I actually followed my boyfriend into the military because he was going to do it. And I was like, and like he came back from boot camp and I was like, bro, you look changed. You look like a different man. I want that for myself. But at the same time, I didn't want to stay with my parents because I don't know, I was very independent. I didn't want rules. I was like, no. So I was like, well, this is one way that's going to also teach me how to be disciplined because I tried college and I just could not get through a year of college. So, and I was self-reflecting and I'm like, I'm kind of a lazy fuck. I think this is going to help me be a better, like work harder, learn what it means to work hard and like have to go through something hard for myself. Because I knew I was kind of like, I guess kind of lazy. And so I decided to join. And I'm glad I did because I'm not lazy anymore.
No chance to be lazy in the Marine Corps.
No. And of course, I was like, whatever, like I'm going to also pick the toughest branch because my boyfriend at the time was like, yeah, I don't think this is for you. And I was like, ooh, let me show you. I can do it. And I did. At least if I was going to do something stupid, I was going to be smart about it. I made sure I got a job that I really like. And I was lucky because you don't really get to pick your job. When you go to the recruiter's office, it's really just luck. It's not like my recruiter specifically said the only time you get to pick your job is like for sure you have a better chance of getting a job you want is if you become guide. And I'm like, what's guide? They're like, guide is so the Marine Corps has something very specific that the other branches don't have. It's called a pool program. So it's like almost a mini boot camp for the boot camp. And it's only like a Marine Corps thing. So they'll put you in the DEP program in the pool for a couple months, depending on how out of shape you are or just like how much work you need before you go to boot camp. I was in the DEP for 6 months. So I was training for 6 months just to go train to go and then be a Marine, which is kind of stupid, but you kind of need it. So I was in this program and they said the only way you can pick your job is if you're a guide, and that's essentially the platoon leader of like the RSS. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to do that. Because I want to get the job, which is combat camera. That was what they offered me. They're like, yeah, you can take pictures for the military and you can get paid for it. And I was like, "Bet, I'm doing that. That's what I like. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's going to be my job." And I was like, I have to get this job. So I volunteered and I competed for that spot to be like the platoon leader because I really wanted to be a photographer. I was like, dope, I can be a photographer in the military. That's cool, right? The way they made it sound was really, really cool. So I trained really hard. I got my knowledge straight and I had to go on a little board to become the platoon leader and I won that. And long story short, I got the job that I wanted. I went to boot camp and then this whole other life started where I was just taking photos in the military and learning how to do that for the first time professionally, which is kind of, I guess, how I've also learned video. I first started doing video in the Marine Corps, and now I do it as a profession, which is kind of crazy. I don't know. It's like now reflecting on it, it's like my path. I'm here.
It's kind of like what they say is when we find that thing that makes us happy and makes us whole, I mean, we will do whatever it takes to have it become our profession and our, we followed that path to get to it. You definitely do it every day for a job. Do you find it hard to go from personal work, quote unquote, professional work for your day job?
I would say if we're talking specifically about video, because I am a photojournalist now for the news, so having to do personal, like video, like just for myself versus video for a job, I would say, yeah, it's kind of hard because, you want to take direction of your own projects and your own ideas in the workplace. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's all like, sometimes you're just a tool, you're like a puppet. Like you're just a tool that someone else is using, which like takes the fun out of being like a videographer. It takes the fun out of it because someone else is like, I can do this but better, but you have to do it for me. Loving something like photography, love taking photos, but then like someone uses that against you. That's how it feels at work sometimes. It's like, I love doing this.
I feel that. I mean, I booked a whole bunch of stuff, was working, and then it just started feeling like a job. And I canceled everything because I like to say I look at my photography and the way that I shoot, the angles I shoot at, and how I capture my moments through a skateboarder's eye. So the way I used to look for skate spots, the way I would go through alleys, go through everywhere, just trying to find something that spoke to me is the same way I approach photography.
The thing I always forget to bring up, because it really doesn't matter to me, just because of the topic it was on, like it was a weather thing and it was like, okay. But I mean, yeah, the part I care about was like, I worked really hard on that day because it was a crazy weather storm. And I was like, for hours just breathing my butt off in the freaking cold. And I'm like, don't come out here, go in your homes. Don't drive. Don't do this. Just stay in your homes while I'm out here like driving around and freaking like hitting other cars because it's so dangerous just to get a picture up. It's like, that was just a crazy day. But yeah, I would say it's.
And what was that award that you won?
I have an Emmy for working as a photojournalist for Como 4, which is a news station that is here in Seattle. I won it for video coverage of the historic ice storm that hit Seattle, which was crazy. Because I don't know if, people, if, you're listening to this and you think snow, yeah, snow's kind of scary to drive in if there's a lot of it. But like people don't realize when the roads are just ice, it's worse than snow. It is like way more dangerous.
That year
it's apocalyptic, dude.
It was. We had the same storm hit us, and I'm so people who are listening, I'm probably 2.5 hours away from where she is. So we our weather systems are identical. So if we talk in and we hop in and we're talking about weather and we say, I understand I had that too. It's because we are that close and our climates are the same, even though we are in two different countries. I also read, I think on Threads, that you've had a lot of people come negative when you have talked about winning your award.
Oh yeah, it's weird just because I honestly didn't really bring it up on social media other than the day that I won it and like the week that I won it, and I posted pictures of it, because everyone updates their social media like, oh my gosh, new thing that happened, no big deal, whatever. And that was it. And then, my partner Mike was like saying, babe, you gotta like use it for business. Like sometimes I know you don't like talking about it or flaunting it, but sometimes you just have to like get attention for business sake. So he started saying like, because he does a lot of our email campaigns, and he started saying like, yeah, like come work with an Emmy Award winning team and we'll do your videos and stuff. Obviously more professional, but I'm just being cheeky about it.
I'd probably hire someone if I got an email that said, come work with our Emmy-winning video team and stuff. I would be like, heck yeah, let's do
and
it.
Stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. And then one day I was like, maybe he's right. I'll just throw it out there on a Seattle Open Shoots Facebook post, because if you're in Seattle, you should join the Seattle Open Shoots Facebook little discussion group. It's a good way to connect with models and exercise. Like if you're amateur, it's a good way to start taking photos of people and getting to know other people and networking. It's just a good network. But anyway, I posted a little thing like, hi, I'm a blah, blah, blah Emmy Award winning photographer, and I'm really interested in getting to know more BIPOC artists, because I'm doing this, like, I'm creating a guild for digital creators, and I want to get connected with more like, brown and black BIPOC artists, either like digital or not, like models, whatever. I just want to freaking talk to you, because that's kind of what started my whole like cultural like outreach. Like I need to get more connected with my own community. So I threw that out there. I was like, hey, I'm an Emmy Award winning photographer, and I want to start doing projects with more of my brown people. And so that's when people like started flying to the post like, oh my gosh, cool, let's like connect. And I got a lot of follows, and then there's a couple people that were like, oh, lies. This is lies. I don't know who you are, but lies. And I'm like, bro, you don't even know me. Like, I had like the two male white men of the whole chat called it out as like fake, like I'm lying. I'm like, oh, whatever. And like some dude like looked me up, like, see, I can't find anything of her. It's like, first off, you're not even putting my name in, right? But people were literally like looking through like the Emmys like records and archive of like awards given, and trying to see if like what I was saying was fake. And it's like I had to post a picture with it, and like, no man, it's right here. I'm not lying. It's like, but the idea that someone wanted to try to discredit me was like stupid. I don't know. And I guess I realized that maybe it's just some like misogyny in the photography community still exists. And it's not cool. It's not cool. The moment that a woman talks about success, it's like, oh, she's lying. Her for sure.
Oh,
and and even when I first joined Threads, that was like one of the first things that happened to me was like someone saying like, oh, you're a liar. Or it's like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm a whatever XYZ. It's like, no, man. Yeah. And I think that's when the whole community over competition tags started popping up, and I'm like, yeah, let's like really start pushing this, because it really is stupid. It doesn't, like, awards are nice, but it doesn't matter. Ultimately, like bringing everybody up together. If I have an award and I can tell you, hey, this is exactly how you do it, I'm gonna freaking tell you. It's like I want other people to get awarded, and there's like way better artists out there that deserve more credit.
Well, I'm going to tell you now, like, I'm super proud of you. Winning that award is something that you should be super proud of. Nobody has the right to tell you different. You worked your ass off to get to that point. It wasn't for the award. It was so people understood. You worked on a project. You did your job, and you fought the elements. You fought time. You made things happen. So everybody here at Life of Phys is extremely proud of you. And you should tell everybody about your award. You should go to the top of buildings and scream about it, because that gives other young artists hope. That's the way to look at it. It's giving people hope. They can do it too, because all it takes is one strong person to stand up and say, fuck the haters. I'm here. This is what I did. This is who I am. Love me, hate me, I don't care. I am going to show you that you can do it too. For me, hearing the way you talk, hearing the tremble in the voice when you're explaining it, how hurt it made you because people were calling you out, calling you a liar for something you worked hard on. Right now, I'm going to tell you, you made your daughter so proud.
Aww.
Just keep fighting the good fight. You got a whole community behind you now. There is no stopping any of us. We all work together, and that comes back to that community over competition. It's something that I try to preach. So I just want you to know, like, even though there is people out there that will try to beat you down and break you and tell you that you're a liar and that you didn't achieve something, you got a whole group of us who are extremely proud. So just keep doing what you're doing. I just like to throw photos up. I don't talk. People are like, you got to do one photo once a day. Dude, I took 18 bangers. They're all going up. I can't fall into philosophies like that. It makes no sense. Oh, the algorithm. I don't care about the algorithm. You know what? My photos aren't for everyone. My photos are what make me happy, and they, as this podcast, it healed my soul. That's what Phys stands for. Photography heals your soul.
I love that, by the way.
Right? Because I found that every day that I was riding my bike, my whole day was better. And then when I got really into photography and was starting a brand, I was like, God, I got to use that name. It means something. And then I was like sitting there looking at the letters, and I was like, Phys photos, Phys photography, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, man, I'm going to build this about my life, about what I've gone through in my... So then I was like, you know what? It really actually healed my soul. It helped me take really bad moments, and it allowed me to heal and showed me that there was a better way than sitting inside and being upset and depressed and everything. My camera is my lifeline. I can't paint. I love art. I love painters. I love artists. They're all artists. They're all amazing. But I can't paint. I have no skills with a paintbrush. But when I shoot photos, I try to shoot like it's a painting. So
I see that.
When I print on bamboo paper because it's textured. So it looks like the colors have been painted onto the paper. And it's just the way I like to express myself. I mean, people laugh all the time when I say that, but it's how I see the world. It's how I see my vision. I edit my way, and that's what makes art because it's individual. And that's why building this community with everybody, having everybody come on board, I'm flabbergasted. I didn't start community over competition by any means. I just brought it to this space for us on Threads in our little group. It's been around. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if I saw it or I just thought it one day was cool, and I was like, you know what, this fits what I'm trying to talk about. So yeah. So let's get back. So you currently shoot on a Canon 5D Mark IV. Fantastic camera, but there's a rumor something might be changing.
See that? I can hear Mike laughing. First photography skills on a Nikon. I think it was like a D3000 or D5000, something, I don't know, something really old. It was good though. And then I started to learn Canon because the Marine Corps, that's what they shot. So I was literally almost every day I had a Canon in my hand. I had a Canon 5D Mark IV and then a 1DX and then the C100. So the Marine Corps was cool because they had their own like closet of like gear, so you could really just play with any lens you wanted. So that was the cool part of being in the Marine Corps, was being able to like experience different types of equipment, experiment and use it consistently, so you really knew it in and out. And so once I got out, I wanted to make sure I continued that new Canon like in and out. So my dad, he was like, you know what, I don't really want this Mark IV anymore. Here you go, you have it. Because I was lucky because the last gen of equipment that went through our unit was Canon 5D Mark IV. Perfect. So I got to know that really well. And so when my dad was like, I don't want this old piece of shit, here you go, I was like, okay, I'll take it. Whatever you don't want, just give it to me.
Yeah, no, that's a great camera. I owned one. It treated me well for the 4 weeks that I owned it before I went back to the brand you're about to mention.
True, yes. And then now, so Fuji was totally bag of mine, honestly, until my partner Mike purchased his first like big Fuji camera. And his dad also shoots Fuji. And so I think, this was just bound to happen due to proximity of a Canon shooter living with a Fuji shooter. And then, by the way, I don't have that much gear. I'm actually pretty minimal with like my lenses. I've had them for a long time. I was just constantly around and then seeing the film presets. At first I used to talk like mad shit. I was like, whatever, like presets is just for people because you guys don't like to edit. But then I started seeing some of them and I was like, wait, those are kind of nice. Those are pretty nice though. And I started to realize that with Fuji, you can really customize your look in like the camera. Or, I mean, but I don't know, you just have more control over it. And I thought that was really cool. And I started to really get a love for the look by seeing my partner's photography grow and develop into something that I started really liking, like a lot more than, you know, when he was shooting with his Ricoh. And I was like, dude, that looks really good. I don't know. My stuff's kind of, it feels a little outdated. My camera's not even mirrorless. And I wanted something also like the XH2, the video looks really good on there too. And my Canon actually is not very good for video. So that's what kind of had me thinking maybe I need an upgrade. So yes, that's the one thing. Also, secondary reason for wanting to buy a Fuji is because I realize as a business of, media, digital creative business, we can't be shooting on separate systems because I thought we would be able to swing it, but it's just, they have two different looks and it's hard to make it look like a professional, like consistent product when you give it to a customer, especially because we also edit really differently. And that's kind of, I would say, been a challenge of running our business is artistically, we're actually pretty on the opposite ends. We have like the same mind for ideas, but how we execute, totally different. So I figured getting a Fuji would help, like keep it consistent.
Well, definitely, it'll definitely keep that color profile very similar. Where Canon, if you were strictly doing portraits, Canon is the color for Canon on skin is amazing. But yeah, running a business, doing video, doing photos together. I mean, keeping a very similar color science will definitely make the editing easier. What is your workflow? Like, are you someone that goes in and spends a ton of time doing your edits, or do you just kind of hop in, making some adjustments, and you're done?
So if I am shooting a portrait session, if I'm shooting for portrait, for editorial, for like the cream of the crop, my favorite thing to shoot, which is like fashion editorial portraits, I will spend nearly like 30 to 45 minutes on one photo just editing. As an artist, like if Fuji had like a soul, it'd be like, it's about the process. If Canon's more like, it's about the product. But I like both because I love to edit. Gosh, it's so therapeutic. It's just like going in and just doing your own thing because I'm so like specific with how I edit. I like bringing out so many different details of a person's face. Even when I shoot street, like I really like get in there with the editing. Like I don't know if you've seen some of my kind of like window street shoots where I like underexpose a lot, where the only thing that's coming through is just the shape of like the object that's lit. So like a window, it'd just be like burst of light. I like doing silhouettes. I don't know. I just like playing with that and playing with it. In photography, it's called the value. Black and white photography specifically, the value is like the shades of gray. And so like playing with the different shades of gray in a black and white photo is what I really like to do. And so that's why for me, I get into editing probably more than anyone else should, but I really like it. There are two ways to be distinct in photography, I would say. Maybe three, but two main ways. You can be distinct with your editing style and you can be distinct with your composition. And so everyone's always going to have a different composition no matter what, but like having your own unique editing style, I think it's what separates you. And not to say it's like, you want to be the best, but community over competition, absolutely. But also there's nothing wrong with wanting to distinguish your style a little bit. And so for me, that's what I do. I use editing for that. Because
there's no better way to love what you're doing than to create what you feel. So for you, your feeling is in the length of your edit, the effort you put into that edit, and the feeling you get when you complete it and you're like, I fucking nailed it.
Yeah, I don't know. And also it's kind of experimenting because like if I just pull up Lightroom right now, I shoot a bunch of different shit. And I think that's kind of the part that on a business side hurts my brand the way it looks, because I like to just shoot whatever I see as I see it. So like if it's a homeless person, feeding birds, I see that as like more of a street photo. But if I, the decision to slow down my shutter and make it all blurry, make it look like a film, like it honestly just depends on the vibe of like the scene I see, and I edit for that. And it's kind of I would say looked down upon because people, you want to edit in sets if you're going to give something to a customer so it has the same look.
Yeah.
And I've actually done that originally, like when I first started doing it professionally as more of a business, not necessarily for the Marine Corps. I would just edit as like one style for the entire set. And for the most part, it's a good idea to do that if you're shooting portraits and you're giving it to a customer. But I got so into the presets, I'm like, well, but this looks really filmy. But I'm like, whoa, but if I do this, it looks really futuristic. And I kind of experiment until I find like something that fits for that specific scene. And that's something that only kind of gets brought out with street photography. I've actually only started recently doing that for the first time. I blame also my partner, Mike, for kind of introducing me to street photography, because before I met him, I never thought of street photography as something I was interested in or something I thought that was that good. I'm like, I haven't really seen anything that good until he introduced me to the idea. And then we started going on photo walks together. And I started finding my own style with street photography. But I shoot street like I shoot portraits, which kind of gave me a weird perspective on it. And so now I'm so obsessed with like finding something new in the city and like editing it and see like how I can put my own spin on it. And I love shooting street now. It's like my favorite thing, almost probably more than portraits. And that used to be my favorite thing.
Nice.
So It's been like a weird battle.
I saw like, so just so people know, I send every guest a pre-podcast questionnaire, just so I can kind of get a feel a little bit deeper from what I learn on social media. That you really wanted to push that portrait stuff after watching America's Top Model.
Yes, absolutely. I would say, during the summers, I would, a lot of the programs that came up that my mom would watch would be like, like the HGTV stuff and America's Next Top Model. And sometimes she'd leave that on, but she wouldn't really watch it. I would. And something about America's Next Top Model, yeah, it's about, obviously models wanting to be big, but the specific part that really caught my eye is, they would have to model some kind of like, high couture thing, but they would have to do it with some kind of concept in mind. It wasn't just like, here, put on clothes and look pretty. A lot of the time, like they would put together a concept like, hey, the idea for this line is like food. So like, I don't know, they would do some extravagant shoot, or they would bring in like glasses that were like this, like gigantic glasses, and like the model would be placed inside, and it's like really high concept shoots. And I just thought that was so pretty. Like I was like, wow, that's really cool. You can put a theme to a whole photo shoot and like revolve it around fashion. And I just thought that was beautiful. So that's what I started doing. I would grab my cousin. It'd be like, okay, go through my closet, pick something really cute out, and then like, let's go to the park and shoot pictures and you'll be my model. And so I would start with my family and like posing them and stuff and like throwing makeup on. And yeah, it sounds really girly, but that's what I really like. Just the idea of like shooting people's faces. I really like doing that. I didn't really start thinking about that until after, like probably my last years in the military, where I started reaching out to models in San Diego saying like, hey, like never done this before. Let's do a fashion shoot. And I started doing it for the first time and I really liked it. Just posing people and like making them do like different things with their body. I thought that was really fun. So that's how I got into portraits. I just saw the photographers in America's Next Top Model and I thought, I want to be that. I want to do that. I want to shoot for a magazine.
That's awesome. I mean, to find something just to see it on TV and be like, man, I like that. I'm going to go try. You did it perfectly, right? You had family, you had friends, you had a camera, you had clothing, you went and just started doing it. Portraiture for me is my weakest aspect of photography. I don't understand how people shoot photos of people. It doesn't really register. But again, I'm a street shooter for sure.
Street all the way.
And I do it on a medium format Fuji now, which slows me down even more. But man, I'm in love with this setup. So now that we've converted you to Fuji.
Yeah, it's true. You guys got me, goddammit.
Who are some of your creative inspirations? Like, where do you draw from?
That one's kind of hard to say because I would say a lot of photographers, especially newer ones, they have like people in mind. Like they have famous photographers in mind. Like they're like, oh yeah, this dude. Honestly, I couldn't tell you like 5 famous photographers if someone pointed a gun to my head, like legit. I honestly don't really know too many. I've been lucky because my inspiration and my mentors were next to me in the military. So when you join a unit, if you're new, they're usually people in the unit that have been there for about 2 to 3 years. So in this world where I'm not only just in the military, but I'm in a very niche like thing in the military where it's like you're military, you're Marines, which is already really small, but you're all photographers and videographers. So you're really tiny. There's only like probably maybe like, I don't know, like maybe 200 people in my entire job field in the Marine Corps, which is really small. And so I was lucky that I was able to learn from the giants before me. And I would say my biggest photography influence, I would have to say, is my best friend, Rita Daniel. She was a girl that was, I would say, a year and a half to almost 2 years like ahead of me in time of service in that unit. But she was so good at photography, and I used to learn how to actually edit just by sitting behind her, like watching her edit. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know you could do that with like Lightroom. And so I just would watch her every day edit photos because she was always sent out to the field because she was so good and because she could keep up with the guys. She was like my first real mentor. And so I learned everything about photography through her. And so, hey Rita, if you actually listen to this, thank you. You are the reason why I'm good at photography. But her stuff's amazing. Just the way she shoots, it's just like so wholesome. But like the way she edits is gorgeous. She's won a couple awards in the military for her work. And I would say to this day, like editing wise, I feel like I've learned so much from her. But the way she just shoots, just how she does it, I still can't do it like she does. But yeah, I had her, and I had my Sergeant Rosales. He was a big shooter. I was lucky. I had so many people in my unit that were so passionate about photography and videography that was the community over competition, because we all had to do the same thing, and we would all share ideas and share knowledge about how to get better because we had to. This was like our job, and especially in a military environment where you have to produce good stuff or you get yelled at. So, but I was really lucky. I got that huge push like really early in my life. Like I joined the Marine Corps when I was 19. I will be 27 this year. So I was really lucky. I had that huge push into like photography and videography as a profession really, really early in my life. So I think that's why for me right now, it's not like learning the equipment or even finding my style. I already have it. It's more just a matter of what do I want to shoot? What do I want to talk about? What am I going to try out today?
You have your own business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and what you guys do?
Yeah. So partner Mike and I, we created a creative co-op. It started as actually an ice cream shop because we're like, dude, what if we had like a place where we could, just like congregate, but have artists come and talk about their ideas. Like, let's make a space in our ice cream shop just dedicated for that. So, because we wanted to make a business together, and at first it was like an ice cream thing. But then I was like, wait, we should have like a space where people can just be creative, or like, I don't know, maybe at first it was like, we should make a space where we could have like classes or something. But that developed into like, no, I think we just really want a space for other artists to collaborate. And that grew into Raw Plus Creators Guild, which is, sorry, let me say it again, because we've kind of changed the name a couple times and I always slip up and say that. It turned into Raw Plus Creator Guild, which is supposed to be a co-op for artists in Seattle, but specifically for digital creators that leans a little bit more heavy into BIPOC representation. Just because I've noticed here in Seattle, although it is somewhat diverse, there's a lot of segregation here and there, and a lot of the art collectives are mainly just for physical mediums like painting or sculpting and drawing. For one, it's physical mediums, and two, it is mostly just, I would say it's not as diverse as I would have hoped. So that's why we wanted to create Raw Plus Seattle. We wanted to bring that community over competition into a real space, and offer it to people. Like realistically, if we had the budget, we would want to create, as long as you're a member, you could get pretty much free gear, free space, free computer to make whatever the fuck you want to make. whatever project you want to make without cost being an issue. As long as everyone pulls in, like we all work on the same big project, we all get a cut. And that was our dream. It still is our dream. We want to build it. And it's political, it's for radical people. It's for people who really care about social issues. So marrying the community over competition and with wanting to solve social issues of the place we live in, that's kind of why we created it. We want art and positive change to be, intertwined.
I love what you guys are doing. I think it's going to be successful. You two are pretty driven, so I can't see why it's not going to work. Mental health was improved drastically by picking up a camera.
I would say it really takes a toll on my mental health if I'm not being creative. I found out really early on in my life that a tool for, I would say, me processing negative emotion is actually through my art. I will say more specifically, when I'm going through something hard, I actually pick up my guitar, to be honest. I don't pick up my camera. I think it's because music was my first art thing because of my mom, and music has been like pushed in my direction the hardest because of my mom. She's a singer. So I gravitate towards that. But I will say when I noticed for me, like when I noticed my partner like shooting a lot and like going out and shooting, and I'm like, oh man, I really want to do that. But I would say for us, like when we shoot together, I feel really happy. I just feel like at a really happy space when I get to walk my city and take my camera and just like be with the community. I feel the most happy. I would say I get to live a life. I get to live my life and be present in my city or wherever location I'm at, and capture the moment and like see it differently. Especially if you do street photography, you need to walk, you need to take the bus, you need to like take transit. You learn a city so much better when you walk it like end to end, and you find out, you discover little spots that you could use for a photo shoot or for, a meetup. You get to know the city and the people better. I think for me, photography helps me connect with my community. Photography helps me explore a feeling. But overall, like photography really is a social outlet for me. And so if I don't have that, I get very depressed very quickly. So I like being social. I like talking. But I also find it's a really good way for me to connect with my partner. We fell in love doing photography, and that's just something we like to do together, is just create and also like walk around and explore. That's just one of my favorite things to do with my...
What I look at when it comes to photography is it gives me the ability to forget my day. Anything that stresses me out, as soon as I pick up the camera and I put my AirPods in, I'm just focused. So that's awesome. And you mentioned photo walks. So you guys put on photo walks on Saturdays.
Yes.
How does somebody find out about those?
Well, if you want to come to our photo walk that is every week, every Saturday, you can follow Raw Plus Seattle on Instagram. We always advertise our little photo walks with a video or some kind of post. We also have a group on Instagram. If you want to join the group, I'll probably put out another link on Threads for local PNW photographers to follow. But you can be a part of this group and, also be a part of the community that's around Seattle, what other people are shooting, other events that someone else might, want to bring in, which is totally cool. We encourage people to share knowledge, share events so that everyone can get experience. But it really is just about other photographers trying new things out, not necessarily just sticking to what they know, but talking to another photographer. Hey, you shoot landscapes. What do you do for this scenario? Or I think this is kind of our trial run to like really start building the guild for real. We might not have the finances to fund it, but we're starting the foundation for it, which is our photo walks. That's and I really want to bring more women onto it because there's, not a lot of girls that come on or non-binary folks that come with us. So I really want to encourage not just men to come, but also women, and everyone who wants to participate should come and try it. Even if you're just starting. It really is a great way to just find out more about your community, and it might help someone get over something.
And the best part is, I'm part of the Instagram feed, so you get to see my nonsense every once in a while. And I still haven't made it to one, but I have an international border, so it's
yes, it's okay.
I have to plan a whole day, even though it's only a few hours away. But
we'll go to Canada for you. Don't worry.
Nice, anytime. But I've met some great people on there. Like I've got David Lacey scheduled in Culture to Crown for a chat.
David's cool.
His portrait stuff is unbelievable. We're gonna do a little trade off. I'm going to teach him some architecture, and he's going to show me some portrait stuff. But I have him coming on. Yeah,
nice.
So it's super cool.
Hey, it's good.
and you know what I appreciate the most about everything is I know if I post something, no matter what it is, that I have you or Mike are always going to share it, like it, support it, and I go the same way. But on things like Instagram and whatnot, you don't really get that kind of community feel. Everybody's like, your photos don't all match. Your grid looks wrong. And I can't do that. My grid is my grid, and I'm going to post it how I want it.
I know. I feel the same way. Instagram kind of took the fun out of it because it's like, oh no, you got to do this algorithm bullshit. It's like, no, just make art.
And that's what it's all about. Thoughts on the community over competition movement that we're all part of and trying to push. What do you like about it that makes it worth talking about and getting people to come in and join it?
I like that it's positive. It's supposed to be a positive group, and it's supposed to be warm, and it's supposed to feel like a little photography family that's going to help you out and like give you information. And for me, I would say it's really just about not like anti-gatekeeping. I just don't think that's a helpful. You could help a bunch of people out by sharing this one little technique or whatever. Or hey, maybe I figured something out, but if I share it to you, you could do like 10 times better than all of us. And I don't know, like, you never know. You don't know who you can inspire. You don't know who you can help. You don't know who you can connect with. The connection is the most important part about the community, because if you establish something strong, and especially something that's like positive and something united, you don't know what you could do. We could all get together and create a really cool project, or I don't know. I just think there's so many possibilities, and the fact that it's a positive group of creatives is always a good thing. You can never have like too many of those, I would say.
I definitely agree. I think the whole goal of everybody on it is to see everybody else be successful. We're all pushing each other to, one, have fun. We're having fun with what we're doing. Two, we are there to offer guidance or support. People have bad experiences. Oh, someone told me this is awful or that's awful. We've all been there, and we can all offer the words of encouragement to help people realize no matter what's happening, that's just a speed bump in this journey. I mean, we're all learning. We learn till the end of time. We're always learning something new. Sharing what we learn with others who will appreciate it is the way to move forward. It's the way to stop being caught up in this, oh, I need a YouTube channel with 100 million followers. That's how I make my money. Well, no, you start by looking at what you're doing, create your art. You stick to what you're doing, and it's bound to be successful because everything comes around in its own time.
Absolutely. And I think for me, what the important part about like seeing other people succeed, I feel happy if I can help someone figure out their own dreams. That's why I like to interview people. I like to figure out their life story, and I'm like, well, how can we make your passion into something that'll make you help someone else out? Because if I have an idea and you have an idea, and like I have a dream that, I want to do this company that's going to, I want to work with small businesses that are going to be sustainable, something like practical that's going to help the future of our society, an environmental, let's say, nonprofit group. If I have that network and I have that knowledge, and let's say you have an idea and you really, really want to save trees or save a certain species, like what if we connected, we can make something bigger and like actually solve a problem, or just inspire someone else to do a project. Like just because I have, someone in my network I might not capitalize off of immediately doesn't mean you can't. Just share it. Share the knowledge. We can all get better from it ultimately. Definitely. And it's just a community. I just want it to be a family. Like I see I see it as like back in the day where there was like actual guilds, like merchants guilds. You take care of each other. I just want it to be that, but modern.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I think that's fantastic. I think you guys are on the right path for sure. The growth and the amount of people, I've started getting emails from people that have listened to episode 1 and they're like, man, I like what you're doing. I like what you stand for. And that to me that's all I can ask for, right?
Right.
I'm not doing this to get rich. I'm just doing this to share my vision and what I'm hoping to achieve by helping others and allowing people who aren't those big accounts that everybody wants to interview. They're people like me, like you, dedicated to this craft, but we're not being pushed in front of the public on a regular basis. I get to hear stories. I want to hear people's vision. I want to hear their story. I want to know how they got directed down the artistic path. And it's been fun. It's been fun. It's going to be a tiring few months,
I mean, badass project though.
It is. And it took me a long time to be comfortable enough to do it. I'm still not comfortable with it. Finish off here, just shout, give me your socials, where people can find you. You can do your personal, you can do your business, and they'll all be in the show notes at the end.
All right. So for my personal page, you can follow I Focus Photo, like EYE, like an eyeball. I Focus Photo. For the business, if you want to follow our guild and see how it grows, you can follow Raw Plus Seattle on Instagram and also on Threads. So same users for Threads and Instagram. So yeah, you can find us on TikTok too. We're trying to do that.
You guys do all the TikTok dances, right?
Honestly, if I could do the TikTok dances, I would, but I can't. I can dance, but I can't TikTok dance. God damn.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube now. So
hell yeah. All
awesome.
Right, brother.
Yeah, it's
Thank
great
you
talking
so much for doing this.
Oh,
it was an honor,
my
for
pleasure.
real.
Oh, thank you. And let me know when you get your when you pick up your camera. Because
absolutely, I know.
I've owned them all.
Oh, I have to make a post about this. People are gonna be like, "What? You sold your Canon?"
Hey, you know what? Somebody else will get some love out of that 5D Mark IV. It's still a great camera. Making it down and actually get to meet everybody in person.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Life of Phys Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our chat, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content and the stories of our incredible guests. And remember to stay connected with us on all social media platforms. It is at LIFE_OF_PHYS at Life_of_Phys, and discover even more stories from the community over competition movement. Have a great day.